And one thing that creative writing fiction classes in college really hate is if you want to write about fantasy or magic. They don't like it. Mostly they want to write you write about your inner pain. So I enjoyed it, you know, in the technical aspects of learning how to write better, and I wrote these really weird, I went back and looked at them, and I really weird stories about like two kids who find out their dad is a serial killer. Like I can see the like genre writer in me that loves fantasy and magic, like trying to break out, because there's a lot of stuff that's sort of dream-like magical realism. Because that's as much as they let you do, pretty much. Otherwise, they're like, you know, what is this? You know, this isn't writing. This is, you know, this is silly stuff with like mad magicians and wizards and, you know, pointy hats, and it's ridiculous. So, you know, so I had to sort of like bury all that stuff. So that's the only thing I would say about creative writing classes in college. They may be friendlier to fantasy now than they were when I was in college, but when I was in college, they were very, very unfriendly to fantasy. There are, however, really great workshops specifically for genre fiction. There's my friend Kiz Johnson is here somewhere, who teaches Clarion, with Clarion the Workshop, which is a famous workshop that happens every year that just does science fiction and fantasy, and there are several others. So do not give up all hope. Those do exist out there if that is something that you're interested in. And I do recommend creative writing classes. I think that they're very rewarding, but you do not have to take them in order to be a writer. I think it is up to you whether that is the kind of thing that you enjoy. And we are out of t-shirts, but we still have many rewarding things to talk about. So anyone who has questions now at all? Okay.
How did you come up with the gems situation?
How did I come up with gem? Okay, so I'm going to assume that we've all read at least enough of Clockwork Angel to kind of know what is going on with gem. If not, you can go la 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 la. Gem was a lot of fun to come up with because he's sort of a particular figure that I love from literature, which is this, and from history. I've always been super in love with the Romantic poets, Keats and Shelley and that group of people. And Keats has this wonderful life story. It probably wasn't that great for him, but he had tuberculosis and he was slowly dying. And he was incredibly in love with this girl named Fanny Braun, but he couldn't be with her because he was a poet, he had no money, and also because her family didn't want her to get involved with somebody who was dying a slow and horrible death. But he took all of that, you know, tragedy of dying young and the unrequited love, and he poured it into his poetry, which is this very beautiful poetry. And he never believed that his poetry would live on beyond him when he died. He had it written on his gravestone, "Here lies one whose name is written in water." But it turned out not to be true. I mean, he has been a famous poet ever since. We still remember his words, we remember his life story. And for me, the story of this guy who's dying, but burning so bright, you know, the candle, you know, that burns so bright, burns out so fast. Such a fascinating story. So for me, I wanted to write about this guy who was a brilliant musician and a wonderful person, but was dying, and burned so much brighter all because of it. And I did have an argument with my publisher initially, where they were like, "He's a drug addict. Nobody's going to sympathize with a drug addict." And I was like, "I do." You know, like, it's not his fault. You know, I was just like, so we were kind of back and forth, and I changed some of the edges of Jem's story to make them happier. But they were like, "Drug addicts." But he came up to he's wound up being one of the characters that I think most of my readers love the most. So there, you know.